to our guest and a few new faces. We're going to do a little presentation here to start. We do an educational segment when we can at the club. And tonight, Tony asked me to talk about what to do with the pictures that we accumulate on our cell phone. And really, this applies to everything. Everywhere we accumulate pictures.
Thousands of them.
Thousands of them. Thousands and thousands and thousands. And I really wish I could say, well, all you have to do is this. You copy it to this and you're done.
Yeah.
Life is not like that. Nothing is easy. So we have quite a tale to tell. And what we run right smack into is something I'm intimately familiar with because I worked on this in my career. In the digital age, there's an unsolved problem, and that is permanence. There's nothing we can write to that's commercially available that will stay put and last forever. There's nothing that's archival. So that leaves us in a bit of a dilemma because we have way too much data. We accumulate it on cell phones and our cameras, our computers, through the internet, and it gets to be a very unmanageable problem. So what I'm going to try to do tonight is tell you how you can manage it and also tell you a little bit about the technical background behind these things. For me, it helps me to understand something about the technology because it informs my strategies of what to do about it and how to pick equipment. And of course, I'm a technologist, so I'm fascinated by it. You feel perfectly free to fall asleep when I start talking about the details of this. At the beginning, I'm going to try to stay at a very top level, what you need to do. At the end, I'm going to remind you of what you have to do, okay? And then the middle will wander. So anyway, too much data, no place to put it. So because there's no one place where you can put your pictures, you have to have a strategy. There's not just a single action item that you need to do. You need to pick an optimum set of steps that can help you save your pictures. And basically, it boils down to having your pictures in more than one place. Having it here is good. Having it over here is a fail-safe for when and if this fails. But really, you need to have it in a third place in case both of these things fail. So having fail-safes is one part of the strategy. And curation, this is the hard part. Going through all these pictures and picking out the ones you really need to save or really want to save. And I'm being a little facetious here about women and children first. But actually, in my own life, I have found that the pictures that really matter to me are the people who were in my life. All the things I did, all the pictures of mountains and flowers and animals that I took, all the really cool shots for commercials and things that I shot, it matters not to me in the end. What matters to me are the people I love. And so you do need to go through and throw away pictures that you don't want anymore. But you can make it very easy on yourself if you just go through and save, like, your favorite pictures that you took aesthetically, the top 10 or the top 100, and every picture of every family member you ever took. They all need to be saved. You'll regret it if you don't. Okay. And the last thing is, because things are changing all the time, technology is changing all the time, and there is no real solution right now, you have to be flexible. And you have to keep in mind that you're going to have to keep moving. You can't just do something and say, okay, it's done. You have to keep moving with your strategy. So let's look at what some specifics are. The first and probably the only thing you need to remember is the 3-2-1 rule. And everybody agrees on this at this point in time, at least. And what that refers to is make 3 copies of your pictures or your data. I mean, all your bank records and all your tax returns and every essay you ever wrote or whatever that you want to save. This is what you need to do to save all of it. You make 3 copies on 2 different types of media at least, and we'll talk about what that means. And one copy of it should be kept not in your house, basically, because your house can burn down. Or somebody can rob it, steal your computer, or whatever. So anyway, one copy needs to be somewhere else. So that's where this 321 comes from. So what you need to remember is, make a copy to an SSD, and I'll tell you what that is, what that means. Make a copy to an HDD, and I'll tell you what that is and what that means. And make a third copy to the cloud. The cloud can be the copy that's not in your house, okay? So this is what you have to do. You have to copy to start with. And after you get everything safely off of wherever it started, then you can sit back a little bit and curate what you really want to save. And why is that important? Well, if storage was free, it probably wouldn't matter. You could just save everything. But it's not free. Sorry, it's not going to be free. Okay? I know a lot of systems and websites and Prime, Amazon, and Google all say a free storage for unlimited photos. I want to talk to you about that later on, okay? And finally, the schedule. You have to, because you're juggling this data, you're trying to keep it alive, you're trying to keep it from dying. You have to schedule certain things to move it along and make sure that it's safe, make sure that it's okay. And since you can't just put it somewhere and leave it, you have to put on your calendar a year from now or 3 years from now, oh, I have to take this action on this particular copy of data because after this date it might not be there. So you have to schedule in advance. So it's, like I say, wish it was set it and forget it, but that's not what it is. Okay, and this is very important. Very important. Nobody thinks their computer is going to die until it does. And same thing goes for your disk, your external disk that you save stuff on. Everything dies eventually. And therefore, the clock is ticking, all right? You got to do this. You got to do at least step one right away. And that is to put a copy of all your pictures somewhere. It almost doesn't matter. Even if you have a really terrible disk drive, horrible, it's about to die, it's better to copy everything over to it and have it at least in 2 places for today. Tomorrow you can buy a better disk drive and do a better job, okay? But don't delay getting that first copy made. Then you can make another copy when you can buy a disk, and you can put another copy somewhere else. Copy well. What do I mean by that? That means if you do have a kind of a crummy disk drive and you put your first copy there, know that you did not copy well. That is going to die. And when you do make a good copy, what I mean by a good copy, I mean you put it on a disk of some sort of storage media that's high quality. Because if it isn't high quality, it's going to die too, sooner than you think. And that's why I say this is going to cost you something. Okay? The cheapest things on the market, everybody goes for the fastest and the cheapest, okay? That's the worst for saving anything, because it's going to die first. So anyway, try to make good decisions here. Now I'm going to talk about some techie stuff, because I'm just fascinated by it. But I think it's important for you to know and remember why Don said use this one instead of this one, okay? That background information I find helpful in informing myself about how to deal with this stuff. And then I'm also going to try and talk about some just practical things, and if you have to go to sleep, wake up for this, okay? Wake up for the practical tips. If you take nothing away from here but the practical tips, I'll be happy. Okay, how to get your photos. First of all, off of your phone, from a phone. Okay, there's a couple of ways. You can just send the photos through your cell system, through the cell tower, to a cloud somewhere. And in a lot of cases, it's automatic or semi-automatic. It's slow, it's out of your control how it goes, it's out of your control how it's organized. There's a lot of things I don't like about it, but at least it's going somewhere. Bluetooth, you can connect drives with Bluetooth. You can connect your phone to your computer with Bluetooth if it's equipped with Bluetooth. That's another way to do it. The best way to do it is through USB, a cable, okay? That's the fastest and most secure way to transfer a photo, or any data, really. Wire to wire is the best. Now, I have two pictures here. One, these are both USB devices for automatically copying your pictures off of your phone. I hate automatically because you have no control on the organization, you don't know where it went, you don't know how the naming was set up. It can destroy all of the organization you have in the first place. I'll repeat this later, but they make it real easy for you to put it there and real hard to get it back, and they charge you money when you want to get it back. So I like having a lot more control myself than anything automatic. But that being said, this little thing here is a device that you can plug a USB cable into, and the other end you can plug into your computer. And when you plug this thing into your phone, it can find the photos and start copying them. In fact, even if you want to control where things go and everything, for some phones, you need to enable it to send photos through that USB port. I've had 3 phones and had 3 different ways I had to do this. The first phone I had was very simple. I plugged it into the phone, I plugged it into the computer, the pictures were there, I copied them and done. The next phone I had wouldn't see it. It wouldn't see the phone. I couldn't talk to it. I had to go around Robin's barn to get my pictures off through the USB on that phone. The current phone I have right now lets me just plug in directly. I don't need this thing, okay? I don't need that at all. I can just take a cable and put one in each device, and I can see the pictures and copy them after I do all this crap. Okay? I wish it was just there like it was in my old phone, but they have implemented security measures so that people can't copy your pictures while you're not looking or whatever, I don't know. But anyway, on my phone, I have to turn it on first, yeah. It won't work unless I turn it on. And log in. I use a fingerprint to log in on mine. Then I have to go to settings, connected devices, USB, and I have to tell the USB system that I want to do a file transfer. I want to transfer files. It's just a button I have to click, okay? But then it says, enter your key,
Password?
your key. Enter your key, okay. First time that came up, I don't know what they were talking about. What key? I didn't set a key. Who knows what key? How am I supposed to remember a key that I don't even know? You know. So after my initial irritation, I tried the first thing that came to my mind, and that was it. So I had to use a key that I use for identifying myself to the phone to tell it I'm really me, and I really do want to copy these pictures. I guess that's okay with me. So this allows you then to select your images from your PC and copy them. How to push the pictures from the phone over to the PC? I don't know. I can't get that to work on my phone. Now, your phone might be different, might be easy. But anyway, I know that this works for me. And usually, it's the PC you're using to control what pictures come over, okay? So I wanted to go through that. At first, I didn't have this information on the bottom, and then I thought, oh, I better tell them what I have to go through, because it might be similar for them. All right, so let's move on. Oh wait, another point here. I have 2 pictures up here, this one and this one. This one doesn't have this little drive on it, this little thumb drive. It's the same function, in fact it looks very similar, but when you buy it with this little thumb drive on there. That's a ripoff. It's also a terrible place to put your pictures, as we'll talk about. But don't get this, get that, if your phone needs one of these. Now, that's what this OTG refers to. This stands for on the go. It's like phone on the go. Take your pictures on the go, whatever. Clever saying, my first phone didn't need it, my second phone needed it, my third phone didn't need it. So your mileage may be. But anyway, don't buy the one with the dongle, with the thumb drive. Okay, how to get your photos off of a camera? I think you know this, most cameras have a USB connection, you can do it that way, it's slow. I don't like it, but it's doable. A better way is take the card out of the camera and plug it into the slot on a laptop, or plug it into the slot on a reader, which is a little box with a bunch of slots that hooks up to the USB port. Okay, and they're pretty fast. That's really the best way to do it.
Hey, Dawn, I just have a question.
Yep.
I use the USB from my camera to the computer. I don't take the card out each time because I don't want to damage it. So I just leave the card in and use the cable. Do you see a problem with taking the card in and out all the time?
Nope.
No, you'd have to take it in and out like, I don't know, 500 times to put enough wear on those contacts to be a
Okay.
problem. So for the life of your camera, I would say it's not a problem.
So when you've emptied the camera card, do you format it for the next set of photos? You've already moved the photos off the memory card.
Well, I do just for convenience, so when I find this chip sitting on my desk
Format
somewhere.
it in the camera that you're going to be using.
Right,
with that camera.
exactly.
Yeah, and if you leave the pictures on there and you leave the chip on your desk or in your drawer of your desk or something, and then you come back later, you don't know what's on it, you gotta plug it in somewhere, or see if there's pictures, trying to remember whether you copied them, whether you can delete it all. It's like much easier to do what you suggested, Tom.
You know, one of the things people should realize is when you delete pictures from a card, do not do it with your computer. Put it back in the camera and reformat it.
Yep.
More people have lost their pictures off their card because the computer does not organize your files the same way your camera does. So you will, the next time you go to use that card, you may find pictures are missing that you took just that day.
Great, thank you, thank you. I haven't had that problem. The cameras I've had do use enough of similarities in the formatting and everything, so I can format it in the computer and plug it back into the camera, works just fine. But that's a good tip, because not everything is going to work like that.
And you know what, you may do it 100 times and you don't have a problem, and the 101st time, you have a problem.
Well, sometimes there's a difficulty formatting a card on the computer itself.
Yes.
Okay, they don't always do a top-notch job of erasing everything on those.
Yes.
So it's better to put it in the camera and let the camera clean it.
I'd be worried about that computer if it didn't, though. It's supposed to. Okay, from the computer, you're going to want to take your pictures and copy them to an external disk, or copy them through the internet to a cloud or someplace like that, or another type of remote disk. Or you can even use Bluetooth to transfer pictures between the computer and other devices, but that's kind of a flaky and slow way. I would say the best way is to use an external disk, because that's the fastest, okay? Now, here's a much trickier question. What do you copy the pictures to? And I'm going to say right off the top, do not copy them to another card for a camera. And don't leave them on the card in your camera, or take the card out and not take the pictures off right away. Because that form of NAND memory, that device is set up as a temporary storage. And they mean temporary. There's a reason why professional cameras have 2 slots for memory cards, so that you can record to both cards at the same time and have a duplicate copy right in the damn camera. It's because these cards are not very good. They're not, and I'll tell you why. We're going to talk about that. They're just not very good for long-term storage. They're meant to be temporary. You take your pictures, you take your card out, you copy your pictures off and format it and put it back in the camera. That's what you're supposed to be doing. Okay, flash drive also is a no-no. What's a flash drive? Well, you guys know what a flash drive is. These little thumb drives we bring our pictures to the meeting on. I call them dumb drives, not thumb drives. Because their functionality is dumb, and I'm going to tell you exactly what I mean by that. They do not do as much processing to save the data as all these other forms of memory. That's the main reason. That's the main problem. So anyway, those are both intended to be temporary. You're using it correctly by bringing your photos to the meeting, giving them to me, we put them on another computer, we look at them, and we're done. We're done with that drive. It can forget it from then on, and it will, okay? So sometimes not. You can't count on it, then you might as well say it can't do it. All right, so there's a couple other places that are much better places to save stuff. One is a solid state drive, external or internal, doesn't matter. A hard disk drive is a good way to save data also. These all have pluses and minuses. I'm going to go through all that. Somebody asked me about archive DVDs, recordable DVDs the other day. And I said, yeah, sure. The gold layer archival DVDs will last longer than either SSD or hard drive. That's about 12 years that they'll last. And there's a so-called M drive that has silicon layer in it that's supposed to last 100 years. Some lab in France tested it. It lasted 12 years also. So, and the drawback of the DVD is that they're very small. I mean, in today's standards, with our pictures are so big, they take up so much space. That's nothing. You'd be there forever writing stuff to DVDs to save all your pictures. So that's, I crossed that one off the list. Yes, it's possible, but it's not a great idea. Yeah.
A lot of the computers and laptops don't come with DVD.
Don't even have it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's an archaic method.
If you want to use a DVD, you've got to plug it into a USB drive.
Yeah, you still can, and you can recover your pictures that you have on DVDs if you've done that. It's not a problem, but it's just not a way forward. Okay, the auto backer-uppers. You see these ads all the time. Save your pictures automatically. Just buy our $89 device, plug it into your cell phone or your computer, and it'll back up all your pictures. It'll find them all and organize them and save them on the thumb drive. I told you not to put pictures on, usually. There's a couple that actually save them to something better, like a solid state disk. But generally, it's a scam. They charge $89 for a $6 part and a $15 thumb drive. So you can do it if you want, but I don't think it's smart. And I put down the last thing, TBD. That means to be determined, because technology is always changing, and I sure hope that we'll have better technologies to save our pictures on. And when things change, you have to change. I was just learning myself today about a new disk drive format that they're introducing. And it's like, wait a minute, I haven't even gotten the old ones figured out yet. Now I got another one. Anyway, plan ahead. Be prepared to plan ahead. Okay, what's a memory card? All of these are memory cards. The usual ones are the SD cards, like the row on the top. The bottom are compact flash, which is a bigger format. Does the same thing. It's just a bigger format. There were other types of cards originally for cameras, but none of them survived the competitive war over formats. And these are the ones that survived. So these are what we have in our cameras today. And as I say, they use NAND memory, and I'm going to explain what that is. And it's considered temporary storage. Okay? Thumb drive? Or the thumb drive? Same story. It's NAND technology, and it's very temporary. It's not reliable, in other words. Okay. So, now we're going to get techie. Are there any questions at this point about the first part? First part's easy. It's like, make 3 copies, put it on different media. Yeah.
I just went through my phone, and I've got pictures in there that look nice and sharp yet that were 2019. And so that's like almost 6 years ago.
Yep.
Now, I don't know, I don't remember, I've got a card in here, but I don't know, I think they're being stored on the memory card.
okay? I had the same question, like how long, okay, if this type of card is not reliable and doesn't last a long time because it's not doing the extra work of saving the data on it, how come it lasts a long time in my phone? So I looked it up. The phone is using memory that's not like what's in these cards or in a thumb drive. It has a controller that does a whole lot more. And so in your phone, with one caveat, those pictures can last a very long time. I'm gonna, when we get techie here, I'm gonna talk about all that. But the saving grace for your phone is that it's almost always turned on. Every day it's turned on. It's turned on for 12 hours or 16 hours. And that gives the chips inside, the operating system on the chips inside, time to do their work, to go through all that memory, find the bad stuff, clean it up, copy things to a better place, and keep everything fresh. We're going to talk about how what that is and how it's done.
Okay, so
But that's a huge difference. That's what makes SSDs safer than these things. The SSDs have a more complicated operating system that goes through and does housekeeping, like I'm going to describe. So phone's not a bad place.
Is the phone doing that upgrading even if the data and pictures are on a card instead of within the phone system?
Yeah, he's talking about his phone also takes a.
Yeah, I was wondering about that. I guess the answer to that is if the chip, you have a plug-in chip, a little micro SD chip that plugs into the phone, right?
Yeah, it's in the
If
phone.
that chip is old, it probably has an operating system like these, and that's not so good. If it's newer, it has more circuitry on there that does more sophisticated stuff, and it's going to last a long time if it's powered on.
It's almost always.
Okay.
You can take it out and take the pictures off of it, put it back in, so you at least have them saved somewhere else.
Yeah, or you can do the first step I talked about, taking pictures off your phone, and it'll access that auxiliary memory also. You can copy the pictures off of anywhere in your phone. Okay, good question. I had the same question. In my phone, is it okay? Yeah, it is. Okay, so let's talk about why we have to be careful, why we have to make these choices and know about stuff. All of the memory we use these days in these portable devices is based on NAND technology. And what is NAND? What does that stand for? I'm supposed to know this stuff. I didn't remember either. I had to look it up. It stands for not and. It's a logic gate that is a not and gate. And I looked up the definition for that. You know what the definition said? It said it's a NOR gate inverted. I'm like, thanks a lot, guys. That makes it really clear. So we're not going to go there, okay? I've worked with people who are really good with assembly language and logic gate circuitry, designing it and using it, and they're a peculiar kind of genius, okay? And I'm not one of them. And it does me no good to even read about it, okay? So we're not going to go there. We don't have to go there. We have a higher level we can look at this from, and that's what I'm going to take you through. So what it is, though, is it's memory that saves the data even when the power's turned off. In your regular computer, the memory, when you shut the machine down, everything in memory goes poof. All right? So this is a way to save memory without having a battery hooked up to it. But it comes with two basic problems, which we'll talk about. And in my job, I think this was way back when I was with Symbolics. Anyway, I was at a trade show and I was talking to the product manager from Intel for the NAND memory, flash memory product. And because I was director at a fairly prestigious tech company, when I asked him, what about this NAND memory technology? What he said was, I think this was before the show opened too, so he was free to speak. But he said, Don, that's terrible technology. It's awful. It's great in some ways, but it's flawed. And we can't get around the flaws. I don't know what I'm gonna do. He sounded very frustrated because he was being asked to market stuff that had some basic problems and they sounded unfixable. It's not shoes I'd want to be in either. We'll see what he's talking about. What is NAND memory actually physically made of? It's made up of a tiny pair of transistors that really have a cell in between the two transistors. The two transistors are trapping electrons in a cell. This is what it looks like physically. There's an insulator above and an insulator below, and I call it a floating gate. It's just a place where you can push electrons and they can't get out. It's insulated there and it's insulated there. So once you push them in there, they're supposed to stay there. And then you can use these gates to either push electrons in or put a low voltage in and see if there are electrons in there. That's the basis of this memory. And you know, a crowded cell, if you push a lot of electrons in and it senses it's full of electrons, it says, oh, that means it's a binary one. Although our computers use ones and zeros only. Okay, so that's a one. But if it's not crowded, if it's almost empty, that reads it as a zero. So that's how I say ones and zeros using NAND technology. But the problem is that the electrons are all pushed into this little space and they repel each other and they want to get out. And they do get out. They find a way to escape. So we have a problem. The damn things are leaky. They leak the data that we want to save out. So it's like trying to save data with sand in an hourglass or something. It's always falling out. Okay, that's big problem number one. Have they solved it? No. They will not solve it with this solution. This is something they have learned to live with to a certain extent and help us learn to live. Problem number two is that, you know, to push electrons into that little space, they put a big voltage on it, and that forces the electrons through the insulator into that cell. But it damages the cell. And so if you do that enough times, it won't work anymore. It's like slamming the prison door, okay, but the latch wears out after a while and doesn't stay shut. So these things only have a limited life, and they can't fix it. That's basic problem number two. So what they do is they set up operating systems that manage the memory so that one part of that memory is not overused, is not used too often. It's called wear leveling. Like if you're writing to one cell all the time, it's going to wear out. Now the problem is when these cells wear out at a certain point, your computer says, I don't know what's on this chip, but I can't read it. Now it might be loaded with good data, but it can't read certain parts of it, and it's dead. So what they do is they move data around to level out how often each one is used. And also another trick is they over provision. If you have a 1 terabyte disk, it probably has 1.2 terabytes on there because they need some extra places to put stuff when the cells become damaged. And this little operating system in the chip looks for that, identifies that, moves data out of the way, puts it over here instead of over there. I mean, it's a mess. It's horrifying to think our data is being treated this way. You know, it's on a leaky sanding floor and something is scooping stuff up and putting it somewhere else all the time. My God.
So is this the memory that is used in all our computers?
It's used in all of our portable storage devices.
Okay, portable.
The memory in our computers is even worse. You turn off the electricity and everything's on. Okay.
But what about all those servers? They got racks of servers?
Yeah, they use the same stuff, but it's enterprise levels. We'll talk about that. Okay, now, there are different types of NAND. over the years, they've gotten better and better at using this stuff. Instead of just being on or off, or 1 or 0, they figured out a way to, that single cell NAND. It's just one bit per cell, and it's either on or off. Okay, that's what I was describing before. They figured out, well, we could actually detect if it's only half full. So then it could be full or half full. That's 2 states. So we could put 2 bits in there if we're careful enough how we measure the amount of electrons in the cell. So they started building what they call multi-cell NAND. And then somebody, under pressure from the market, who wants cheaper, figured out a way to put 3 bits in the cell. And eventually, somebody said, well, if we can make it work for 3, maybe we can make it work for 4. So now they put 4 bits in each cell. So you have this cell which has a number of electrons, and they're measuring whether it's sort of full or sort of empty, or how much sort of full or empty it is, to enough levels to distinguish 4 different levels. I'm telling you, this is horrifying to me. But that's what's being done. Now, I say this is the ladder of risk. Why do I say that? Because the top level, the single cell, is the most reliable. It's easier to read 1 bit on or off. The bottom level, quad level cells, that's really pushing it. That is terribly unreliable. And these, memory made out of this will last about 1/10 as long as memory made out of that. And guess what all of our consumer products are made out of?
The cheapest.
Yes. That's why you have a problem saving your pictures on a whole bunch of stuff you can buy off of Amazon. So we're going to talk about it though. Don't freak out yet.
Too late.
That's what I said. You're telling me. Okay. Here's one of the ways they get around it. I mentioned wear leveling before. The operating system on the chips do some work to keep all of the cells used about the same amount, rather than one being overused and the chip going bad. And there's different levels. Dynamic wear leveling is what the card in your camera does, and it's what the thumb drive does. And it's better than nothing, but it's not really good enough. That's why I don't recommend putting pictures on it. Okay, it's temporary storage. Sooner or later, it's going to go flow. But static wear leveling is a lot better. In that case, it actually looks around at data that's been written, but it's not being read, it's not being used. And it says, essentially, oh, this one's not being used very much, but this cell over here is getting used a bunch. I think I'm going to swap and put the data that's not used so much over here in this cell that's being used an awful lot. And so that way, it swaps everything around in the chip. All the memory gets swapped around so that the amount of wear on each cell is about the same. Boy, does that help. That's a huge step. That's a big difference. And that's what we have in solid-state drives, which is why I recommend only putting your data on a so-called solid-state drive. That's the lowest level of quality and technology that it makes sense to put your pictures on. And that's why, because it's doing a better job of wear leveling. Now, somebody came along and said, well, people want more data in their disk. They don't want a 1 terabyte solid state disk. They want a 4 terabyte solid state disk. So we can't do that with one chip. So we have to have something that goes around and looks at all the chips and does wear leveling. And that's what global wear leveling is, okay? So virtually every solid state disk you buy now has that. It has to. It wouldn't be worth a damn if it didn't do that. So that's what they did as a solution. And so now NAND-based solid-state drives are not too bad.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Is a 2 terabit solid state drive more Is safer, we use the word safer, than the 4 terabyte drive?
Often, yes, because they've used denser chips and quad level architecture to get that extra storage space, which makes it less reliable. Even with wear leveling.
4, you mean? The 4 terabyte?
4 terabyte, yeah.
Yeah.
So it makes it less reliable.
So you'd be better off getting a pair of 2 terabytes.
Not necessarily, as I say, things are fluid, things are dynamic, be prepared to adapt, move as we go along. Because as soon as somebody makes it cheaper, figures out a way to make it a not too expensive 4 terabyte disk, somebody else is going to say, oh, well, hell, I'm going to put that in my 2 terabyte disk. And then I can cut $1 off the price, and some dummy will buy it, and I don't care what happens to his data, I got my money. So it's just the Wild West, okay? It really irritates me that it's so vague and unhelpful and dangerous to our data. But I have more to say about that. Anyway, a solid state drive is not too bad with one caveat, okay? This one right here. This one right here. Now, how many of you know somebody who copied all their pictures onto an external disk and put it in the desk drawer for 3 years, or 5 years, or 8 years, and came back later and they couldn't read their pictures? That's what will happen, because when the disk is sitting there, not powered on, the electrons are leaking out the whole time, and there's no wear leveling going on or refreshing or garbage collection going on by the operating system because it's turned off, and your data goes away. But if you plug it in a couple of days, say every 6 months or 8 months, that powers up the system, the operating system gets to work, goes around looking for bad cells, it moves stuff around, it collects the garbage and throws it out, and it has a pretty good working system after really just a couple of hours, I think, but it depends on the size of the disk and everything. So as a practice, this is what you need to start doing. When you put your data on the solid state disk, the external disk, just put it on your calendar. Every 6 months, take it out of the drawer and plug it in. And if you do that, you might find that your data will save okay on that disk for years and years and years. I have not found a number for how many years. Okay? I doubt if it's 10, but it's certainly more than 3, which is the next disk we're going to talk about. Okay? And consumer drives are just good enough. They use quad level cells, and they do all the wear leveling they can manage to do, and they manage to eke out enough resilience to last you and I a few years. You know, they're often guaranteed for 5 years, actually. But they will wear out faster than some other technologies. For enterprise drives, where the mission is more critical, they do not use quad-level cells. They use 3-level cells. And as a result, the longevity of the disk jumps by a factor of 10. And if it's really mission critical, a nuclear plant or a medical machine or something, they use multi or single-level cells, which will last even longer. Okay, so we can get away with what the stuff we can buy, but you do have to remember to plug it in. Now, here's an example of a consumer SSD. Crucial, makes pretty good stuff. This one is, as you can see, he's plugging a USB drive into it, okay, and it's 2 terabytes for $175. Not a bad price. It's a little high. I've seen a lot cheaper, you know, like 130, something like that. But what I've learned after all this reading is don't trust the cheapest one. No. Never use the cheapest one for this. Use it for other stuff, but not for this.
I waited till today because I'm ready to buy a 2 terabyte. I think it's a SanDisk brand. It's about $150, okay?
I'm glad you waited.
Huh?
I'm glad you
I'm
waited.
glad I waited too.
Because SanDisk is one of the ones that was called out as failing quite often.
Oh.
And here we come to one of my pet peeves. We as consumers have a very tough time figuring out what we should buy because what I'm going to show you next, which is how they describe these consumer products. They deliberately make it difficult to understand what the true reliability of that disc is. And they surround their advertising with buttery marketing language that sounds so great, and it tells you nothing about what you're concerned about in this case, which is how reliable is it for saving data.
That's why we have you.
Well, I hate to tell you, but I'm as buffaloed by their wording as you are. Watch, look, let me show you. Okay. I've marked in red everything I don't like about the copy from Crucial on this disc. And I like Crucial, they make a good product. But I do not like the way they talk about it. It's baloney. They say, first of all, they say it goes fast, 2,100 megabytes per second. And they say it's built to last. And they talk about how drop resistant it is and dust resistant it is. They talk about the case. They don't say anything about how reliable the disk inside the case is. Nothing at all, zero. In fact, you have to go digging to get this information. You have to go to the manufacturer. You have to look in the vendors section. You have to look up spec sheets. You have to read the fine print. It really ticks me off. Anyway, broad compatibility, they make this sound so wonderful, they'll look up anything. Well, come on folks, it's a USB external disk. USB is a universal interface. Of course it hooks up to all those things. They all have a USB plug on them. What are they trying to pull over my eyes here, you know? It sounds like heaven, it's just normal. Okay, and lastly, massive storage capacity. Well, I get 2 terabytes. If you don't shoot that many pictures, 2 terabytes might be massive. It might be plenty, okay? For me, it's not. I just put all my data on a 14 terabyte disk.
Wow.
And I was worried it wasn't all going to fit. If you go out and shoot a dozen pictures when you take a field trip to take photographs, you're fine. 2 terabytes is massive. If you go out and shoot 500 or 600 pictures because they're free and you're very creative, that's not a massive drive. And what's worse is the end of the sentence. Blah, 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 offering secure and reliable storage. That is actually lying. That's false advertising.
How do they get away with that?
Because I can hear lawyers now. You can't say absolutely. You can't say anything that does not exclude any possibility. But you can say this because we can say, well, it's more secure and reliable than it was before you copied it onto the disk. That's truthful. So they have an out. So they make you think your data, your pictures are safe if you copy it to this drive. It just frauds me. So anyway, I debunked this a little bit. The speed.
Go back one.
Go back
Yeah.
one.
Built to last. All-weather shoots with IP55 water and dust resistance. If you have a USB connection in there, you don't have water resistance of any type whatsoever.
Yeah, and what's going to protect the contacts in that little recess where you plug the cable in?
Nothing.
Nothing.
I mean, some of them do put a plug in there for you. but
Well, if you remember to plug it in and don't lose it, yeah, I guess.
Yeah, I mean,
You know, it's just, I was in marketing. I know what it's about, you know? It's like you put your best foot forward. That's what you're paid to do. But I like to tell people the information they actually need to make a decision, as well as my best foot forward. So on this page, I said, 2,100 megabytes per second, yeah, great, except USB 3.2 only goes up to 1,500 megabits per second. Are they lying? Well, no. The disk inside the damn thing probably can go that fast. But can you put data on it that fast? No, you cannot. Probably. In fact, you probably don't own a computer that has the latest USB 3.2 2x2 version, which is the only thing that can go even that fast. All right? So anyway, it's not, you can't take them to court on it, but it just irritates me. Okay, expected endurance. It's not disclosed at all. On an enterprise drive, it'll tell you how many times a day you can write the full size of that disk. And on a consumer drive like this, it's usually 1/10 to 3/10 of the size of the disk can be written every day. If you do more than that, you're going to wear it out real quick, because we're dealing with these 4-bit cells and stuff like that. So anyway, they don't tell you anything about that, anything about that. You have to dig on their website quite a bit to find the spec sheet that actually tells you even that. So the warranty, 5 years or a maximum TBW, that's terabytes written limit. There's a limit to how much you can write onto that disk before it's worn out. That's a number. That's a number that's expressed for enterprise drives, but for us consumers, never mentioned. Why? Because it's low. So to actually get to the number, you have to take, if you had to take the middle of this number, say it's maybe 2/10, in between those. 2/10 times the 2 terabytes times 365 days times 5 years of warranty period equals 730 terabytes. Now that might sound like, well, I'll never do that, and you may be right, which is why these things can be sold. And they're still useful to us. But in terms of information, to me it feels like they're, trying to trick us. So there is no direct measure also of reliability. This is a measure of how much can be written and how fast it can be written, but there's no direct measure that says this has a reliability rating of 9 out of 10 or 2 out of 10 or some measure like that. That's what I'd like if I know that's where I want to put my pictures. Okay, so let's look at a different situation here. This is an enterprise drive. If I could afford it, and sometimes I do pop for it, I would buy enterprise disk drives because they don't use 4 bits per cell, and they have better algorithms for wear leveling, and they're made out of much better components. And they tell you exactly how much you can write. In this case, this is the same size drive. And you can write 1 1/3 drives per day. In other words, more data they can even hold every day you could write for 5 years. And the wear total write endurance, the TBW, like we saw before, for this, instead of 760, is 4,600 terabytes, okay? So this is the drive that are in the servers in the cloud and in the bank and at the government, and we can buy them if we want. And what's the cost? This is $330 for the same 2 terabytes that we saw for, what was it, 170 something dollars on the consumer drive. So it's about double the cost. But sometimes I might want that kind of reliability, and I'll pay the money.
What's the connection on that?
USB.
That's a USB connection?
Yeah.
I'm looking at the end of that, it doesn't look like USB to me.
That actually is,
See it?
Is that internal?
that actually is,
That looks like an internal drive connection.
yes, an internal drive. It's not an external drive, and it is a, I believe, what is it? Not SATA.
It's
What's the other one?
It's IDE.
No, that's really old. No.
No, well, they still call it IDE, it's Supra I or something.
No, there's another word. I forget. Anyway, it's in servers a lot. It's not normally what's in your computer case. It's a server level interface. It uses the same plug, actually, on the drive as the SATA hookup. Yeah.
Well, I just looked at SATA versus SSD, or SATA versus M.2, SATA versus NVMe, SATA versus PATA, SATA.
There's another one too.
There's
Sorry,
another.
my mind goes sometimes, yeah.
If you're not writing to it as frequently as up there, is there still a lifetime that it wouldn't exceed?
That's a good question. That's a question I had too. If it has better performance like this, does that mean it's more reliable? Are the two related? Are the two correlated? And it turns out, yes, they are heavily correlated. But as I say, there is no measure that I've heard of that translates performance specs that they give into a reliability index or something like that. But yes, this drive will save your pictures over the same 5 years much safer than the consumer drive.
But my question is, if I'm not saving to it as much,
Yeah.
can I
know.
extend that 5 years?
No. Maybe a little, but no, you can't count on it working like that. And also too, this has to be powered up once a year as well, just like the consumer drives. If you don't power it up once a year and let the housekeeping happen by the little chip operating system, it'll still lose data. So anyway, good question. Excellent question. I still have a few questions myself doing the research for this. Well, what about it? Okay.
I know
Yeah.
photographers. I know one guy who's got many terabytes of stuff, and what he does is he has a case that has hot drive, changeable drives.
We're getting to that next.
And what he does is he plugs that in every 3 months or whatever. And he also does a diagnostic of all his drives to make sure that they're good.
Yeah. Yeah, to really do the job right, you need to resort to redundant data in an array of disks, so that when one disk dies, you can pull it out and put another disk in, and it'll automatically repopulate the data on that dead disk. And that's doable, that's viable. I mean, it costs money, but it's not terrible. And that's an individual decision you guys are all going to have to make about how much money do you want to spend to keep your data
Yeah.
safe.
He has no problem spending that kind of money.
Yeah. I wish that were me, but it's not. All right, hard disk drives, we're all familiar with that, okay? Turns out, hard disk drives are actually, they save the data on the disk in a very, very persistent way. In fact, it takes almost 100 erasures to actually get data cleaned off of a magnetic spinning hard drive. The problem with them is they're kind of fragile, and they will die if you drop them. They're dead. And this is something that I ran into with a conversation with the vice president of Seagate. He had just retired, and I was a vice president at Sony at the time, and I guess he felt free to speak to me. And I remember too, I was talking to him because I'm a lifetime member of the American Motion Imaging Archivist. So I was interested in archiving stuff. So he spilled the beans. I said, why don't you make disk drives last longer than 3 years? They have a 3-year bathtub-shaped mortality curve. Infant mortality, where there's a lot of them at the beginning, then it levels off and not very many fail for 3 years, and then the curve goes way back up again. So there's a 3-year lifespan that you can sort of count on. And I said, why can't you make them last longer than that? And he said that, and he sounded pretty irritated about this, actually. He had just retired, and Seagate had just began offering 5-year warranties on their disk. And I said, well, do they last 5 years? He said, no. They last 3 years, just like any other disk. They last 3 years because after 3 years, the lubrication we put on the spinning disk dries out and the heads start crashing. And I said, well, why don't you come up with a lube that doesn't dry out like that? And he said, well, and again, he sounded a little irritated. He said, well, marketing doesn't want us to make them last longer. And apparently the public doesn't either, because if you have a disc that lasts 3 years and it begins to go bad, and you go shopping for a new disc to replace it, because of the progress they make in the density on disc, you'll find that the disc that you bought 3 years ago for $150 or $200 is now $78. And for the $200 or $250 you spent 3 years ago, you can now get a disc that's 2.5 times bigger, more space. So with the same money to replace the disc, you might as well buy a bigger disc. And that's what people do. They've done their studies, they know their market, they know how people act, and that's what people do. So why would you be incentivized to make a disc that lasts longer? People don't care, people don't even want it, except for archivists.
We're a throwaway society.
Sorry?
We're a
Oh,
throwaway
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly, you know. So anyway, but it turns out this is a really very good way to save one copy of all your pictures, an external hard disk drive. It's very long lasting, it's very persistent data retention, and you know, if it's at home, sitting on your desk and you're not moving around, you're safe, you're good probably. And it's also the lowest cost per gigabyte. It's like half the price of a solid state disk, generally speaking. Now, here's one. They look just the same as any other disk. But I found this very interesting. They also offer free data recovery. If the disk does crash, you can send them the disk, and they'll put it in their lab, and they'll extract the data off of it, and put the extracted data on another disk and send it back to you for free.
What brand name is this?
Seagate. Seagate.
Seagate.
Yeah. So I thought, well, that's very smart. They probably don't get many people taking them up on this, and it sounds really damn good. So, yeah, sure, I'm all for it. So I looked up how well does data recovery work, and there's two kinds. One kind analyzes the metadata that they can still see on the disk and keeps the file name and the metadata, like what camera took the picture and what date and what the settings were and all that stuff, with the picture. And if they can give me that for 80% of my pictures, I'm a happy camper. But quite often, they can't do that. It's not successful. And they do what they call a raw data recovery, which is just taking everything sector by sector off the disk that's readable and throwing it into a big pile with names like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, up to 30,000 or whatever, 120,000. And it's up to you to figure out in that pile of stuff where your pictures are and what they are, and it's a mess. It's not a really good answer. Much better answer is not to wait the 3 years. When it gets to be 3 years old, buy another disc, copy everything over, give the old disc to your cousin who's playing video games or something, and move on. That's why I say you have to regard this as a process that has to keep happening. If you want to save your pictures, you have to invest your time and money to process them and keep them processed, keep them going. Okay. Other places to save your pictures, let's talk about network attached storage first. This is like an external disk. And it has some real great advantages. Basically, you put it on your Wi-Fi or your internet, and any computer in the house can save stuff onto it. And it's usually a bunch of drives, 4 or 5, and one of the drives has extra data on it so that if one of the drives fails, the system can rebuild that failed disk when you plug a new disk in. So it's redundant. It's very reliable because of that. It costs, it's not too expensive, and it's an alternative to the cloud, which some people like because it's a one-time purchase. The cloud, as we'll see, is money out of your pocket forever. This is a disk system you can buy, and then you can maintain it and keep it for a very long time for the initial purchase.
Until that cloud business collapses, and then you can't get at it.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up. Thank you, though. That's for sure. That's why most people don't make a recommendation for a specific cloud storage service because they keep going out of business. Okay, in the cloud, so I've had some people ask me, well, what is the cloud? So I put this slide on. Okay, it's just a place on the internet where you can upload your photographs from your smartphone or whatever, and it makes a copy of your photos. It often encrypts it so that nobody else can look at your photos. And then you can look at them and download them from anywhere while logging into your account. And you have access to your pictures. So that all sounds pretty good, right? Well, that's the good side. The downside is, well, these are the benefits. Accessibility, automatic backups. That's something that is actually a pretty big thing. A lot of services provide software so that when you put new pictures on your computer, they are automatically uploaded to your storage account. And you don't have to do anything. And for a lot of people, even myself included, I don't always remember to do that. I don't always get around to it. So that's a good thing, but you do pay for it. And it's easy to share things. You can share your pictures with the other family members just by giving them a permission link to where your stuff is saved. And they can look at it anytime they want to also. Also too, I like it because when you die, how do your kids get to all those pictures and things? What happens to your computer and all those disks, and who sorts through all that stuff? But if your best family pictures are on a cloud under your account and you share the permission with your kids, they will be able to look at grandpa and grandma years later. And I think that's a really huge benefit. There's some downsides. The internet has to be working at the moment, and you want to look at that, of course. And the cost, there are a lot of plans that claim to be free, but they're not. You hit a limit, and then they start charging you. And again, these are marketing tactics that I don't like. I don't like hiding things from people, and this is usually hidden. Not only do they surprise you with you've run out of space and now you owe us $100 a year to keep getting access to your pictures, but they didn't tell you up front that if you want to download your pictures, we're going to charge you through the nose for that, and we're going to make it very slow so that you're not tempted to download them before you run out of space. I hate marketing like that. And it's true of most of the free cloud storage. You know, Amazon Prime and Google Drive and Microsoft Drive and you name it. Now, a nice alternative to that is to go with something that's like an independent storage company that is just very straightforward. They say, this is the price, you can guarantee it, this is how much storage space you have, it'll be that forever. That's the business we're in. It's very upfront, and yeah.
That Amazon Prime, you have to continue to keep your Prime membership or you won't have access to your photos anymore?
Well, that's one problem. The other problem is it's free. It's free.
With the membership?
But with the membership, but until you hit the limit that we don't talk about so much, then we charge you.
Yep.
Same thing, it's the same thing like for, and Google doesn't tell you this, but Google Mail, the Google Drive is free storage too, you know, for Google Photo. But what they don't tell you is that all the email that you ever sent in your life through Google Mail uses up some of the space on your disk. So I have like, I don't know, 25 years of email with pictures and diagrams and space-taking stuff that it's going to take me a long time to go through and throw away.
Yeah, Yahoo too, they used to store
Yeah,
unlimited
sure.
and now they cut it down to 20
Yeah,
megabyte or
yeah.
whatever it is.
That's why I like Backblaze. Backblaze, I like them for two reasons. They're very straightforward. They say you can save everything that you can attach to one computer in your house for $99 a year. So there's no limit to the size, except it all has to come from one computer. They figured out we can get away with it. And They also publish every year how long all their discs last. They have about 300,000 or 400,000 discs in their cloud, and they
So
maintain
change
them, and they
everybody's
keep
to another one?
they keep records of how the disc health is. When they start going bad, they pull that one and put another one in. Everything's redundant, so they can repopulate it. They maintain this big system, and they keep an accurate record of how long each model and brand of disc that they use lasted. And they publish it every year. So we can go look at those numbers and say, well, I'm sure not going to buy a Western Digital disc of that size, of that model number. That was terrible. That had a terrible history. This one over here was really great. I'm going to buy that one for my home computer. I love that as a service, and it's part of their sort of business philosophy to be open, upfront, make your own decisions. And so I like it. Now, there are cheaper places. I saw one for $67 a year. But I like your point. Sometimes those go out of business like that, and you didn't have time to get your pictures off of it. So I don't. This is the only one I actually would be brave enough to recommend to people use. And there's nothing wrong with the ones that offer free storage, automatic uploading, and things like it. If you don't have too many pictures, if you're not going to run out of room, if you're not going to take the trouble to maintain the data migration from this disk to this disk to this disk over the years, it's a pretty good idea to let somebody else, a pro, do that kind of work for you. So I'm not against the other thing. I'm against the way they market it. I'm not against the idea. Okay, we got to finish up here. Printed books, excellent way. Who's Bob? You make a printed book every year.
Yeah.
This not only gives you a book of pictures printed in archival pigmented inks, which are liable to last hundreds of years. And the paper is acid-free. It's designed to last a very long time. So that's all good, and it's not very expensive. And it forces you, or it makes you at least be incentivized to curate the photos. You want to save the best pictures of the year. The rest of them don't matter so much. But these, I really want to be able to have, or I want to be able to give to my kids.
I upload to two places, one SmugMug, which you pay for, it keeps the full resolution, but then I do Snapfish as well, that after a while it lowers the resolution. But it's free with Snapfish as long as you buy something every year.
Yeah,
A
same.
mug, a shirt with a picture on it, and we do the
Shutterfly's the
books
same.
and we do the Christmas cards. So every month, when I'm theoretically, at some point, I'll have like September's finally uploaded, and at the end of the year, we can go back into the Snapfish account, look at all of our photos, and start pulling in. This is the pictures from January,
Absolutely
and we
perfect.
put those here. Now we're done with January, we're gonna go to February, and we do a book with,
No.
you know,
It's a good way to do it, and I recommend it.
What are some of the names of those companies?
Shutterfly,
Shutterfly's one.
yeah. You have to buy something every 18 months,
Okay.
yeah.
Finally, you don't get very high resolution prints in those books. You can't. It's a printed book. It's got several pictures per page. That's not high resolution. If you want a high resolution copy of your best artistic pictures, the best way to do it is still to get a print made. That's a high resolution printer, and it uses, again, archival inks on archival paper, and the colorimetry is perfect, and that is the way to save for a very long time a good picture. And of course it costs money, right? I mean, it
Yeah.
ain't free. None of it's free. I was thinking about it the other day, and I was thinking, well, gee, if I have to buy a solid state disk, okay, there's a couple $100. And I have to buy a external hard disk, well, there's a couple $100. And I have to put it on the cloud every year, well, there's $100 a year. That's like $500 I have to invest this year to save my pictures. That's like, whoa, that's a real impediment. So what does that say to you? That says maybe you should curate your pictures and just pick out the 1,000 best pictures that you've taken of non-family subjects and pick out your family subjects out of the big mess of pictures you have and just save those, because you can buy a much smaller disc to put them on. So anyway, I'll leave you with that thought. So this is what I want you to remember, 3, 2, 1. Don't put it on SD, don't put it on a flash drive. Put it on an SSD, an HDD, and a cloud or a remote disk like a network storage. I'm sorry it took so long, but this is a heavy subject, okay?